Joining us now, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times and an MSNBC political analyst, and Susan Glasser, staff writer for The New Yorker. They are sitting in the same spot because if you didn't know, they are married. Happy Father's Day, Peter. So I want to zero in on a key question that was asked of folks in this survey, and it's the most important issues to the respondents. This is element 6. And you notice I said in the intro that the biggest issue for the president was immigration, and you got a lot of people who are disapproving of what the president, approving of what he's doing. 51% approve. But when you look at what issues matter most to you right now, immigration is 1, 2, 3, 4, comes in 5th at 9%. So, Peter, why is the president still so focused on immigration when what the American people really care about is our economy, democracy, healthcare, crime, and safety?
Well, I think in part because that number is much higher among Republicans, right? It's about 20% of Republicans say it's their number one issue. So he is, of course, appealing to the people who brought him to the office, right? He has always been somebody who focused mostly on his own base and what they were interested in rather than the public at large. He's lost, half the country that he's never going to get back. So with the fact that they may not care as much about that issue doesn't matter as much to him. Now, the economy, of course, is an area of vulnerability for him because right now people feeling a little anxious about what's happening with the tariff wars and what might be coming in terms of, price increases and so forth. And so, of course, he wants to focus on an issue where he has more support, at least among his MAGA base, until, as much as he can.
Could you talk a bit, Susan, about the evolution of Trump on immigration, or rather the non-evolution, since that moment he was on the escalator and he came out so hardcore on immigration, 2016, and then, he's used it to varying effect throughout his campaigns. The Wall vaunted him into the presidency. 2018 ranted about caravans. It didn't really go over. Now you look at these numbers and the country is so evenly split on immigration, and he's throwing everything at the issue and has gotten so militarized in his use of force around the country. Is there political utility still for Donald Trump?
Well, it's very interesting. It is his view that this is the core to who he is as a politician and the reason why he was elected president not once but twice. And so that's a pretty unshakable view. I would say at this point, we're a decade into this. He began his political career, as you mentioned, by talking and demonizing immigrants. It's in that sense not surprising at all that 10 years later he's still doing it. The problem for Trump is that he only has one playbook. And right now, I think he's facing a big dilemma because he both wants to declare victory over this huge wave of illegal immigration that he claims is all Joe Biden's fault. At the same time, he is justifying his extraordinary and inarguably extra legal crackdown on immigration by saying that we're under invasion. And so you can't really be under invasion by rampaging hordes of illegal aliens. At the same time, you're also declaring victory and that your policies of mass deportation now are such a success. So I think right now, Donald Trump is facing the dilemma of governing. He's much better, frankly, as an outside candidate ripping down those whose job it is to govern the country than he is as a governor, in part because the responsibility of making tough choices in the White House doesn't lend itself to Trump-style demagoguery, I would say.
Coming up this week is the 10-year anniversary of President Trump coming down that escalator. We've been with him for 10 years on the political front. I want to play a shot of that first presidential campaign launch from June 2015, and we can talk about it on the other side.
Officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again. The American dream is dead. I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second. Save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. Have to do it. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, They're rapists. I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
Mexico didn't pay for the wall, if anyone forgot, over the last 10 years. Peter, I want to start with you, but Susan, I want you to weigh in as well. 10 years of Donald Trump in our politics, a lot has changed. Almost everything has changed about our politics because of one man.
Yeah, and yet he hasn't changed, right? A lot of what you just showed is reflective of the same themes, the same arguments, the same language that he uses today. How shocking it was to the political system 10 years ago when he said that Mexicans coming over the border were rapists. That was a huge scandal, it felt like at the time. Lots of discussion and commentary about how out of the norm it was, how you know, a lot of people thought it was very racist, very demagogic, to use Susan's word. Today, it's the kind of language he uses all the time, and people don't really bat an eye anymore because it's become part of our national political conversation, rightly or wrongly. And I think that what's remarkable is how much he has shaped this decade, how much he has, in fact, dominated. Even when he wasn't president, he has dominated our national discourse now for 10 years. Everything, even when Biden was president, was a reflection in a lot of ways off of Trump. What it meant for democracy, what it meant for issues like immigration, what it means for the economy. He has singularly come to define this moment in a way that no president has really probably since FDR.
Yeah, I think I would agree that Donald Trump is going to, have his name stamped on this era. And it's also a permission structure for many of the worst angels of our nature. That's something striking when Peter talks about how inured we've become to, the casual lying as he breathes. Frankly, that's right there in the very first clip of the very first moment of Donald Trump as a political figure. The divisiveness, the hatefulness, the demagoguery, those have now just become accepted facts of our politics, actively cheered on by a huge swath of America. Remember, he was an outsider even to the Republican Party. His hostile takeover of one of America's two political parties is the defining fact of our time. And, their willingness to go along with that, even after the unleashing of a violent attack on the U.S. Capitol in order to try to keep Trump in power after he lost the 2020 election. This is a breathtaking fact, whether we talk about it or not. Remember, Joe Biden aspired to put an end to the Trump era. Instead, he became, the sort of the sad interregnum that proved that Donald Trump was the owner of this political moment in American history. And it tells you about Trump, but it tells you about America, too.
Yeah. Peter and Susan, I'm not sure if what I'm about to bring up was in the book you co-authored or if it was from Peter's reporting in the New York Times, but y'all were the ones who told all of us that it was the president's trip to France and the Bastille Day military parade that Donald Trump witnessed with President Macron, that is where he got the idea that led to yesterday's military parade. Do you think that the military parade, the parade to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Army, that was also happened to be President Trump's 79th birthday, was it everything he expected and hoped it would be?
No, I don't think you could say it was. Obviously, I think he imagined this much grander, much more extravagant affair with lots of people and cheering, and particularly cheering him, right? And the reports from the parade from my colleagues at the Times, indicated kind of sparse attendance in some places and sort of a flat energy. And I don't think it was what he wanted. Obviously, it was overshadowed to a large extent by the conflict of what's going on in Los Angeles. It was overshadowed by protests with hundreds of thousands, not millions of people, anti-Trump people in the streets of cities across the country, huge crowds in New York, San Francisco, even Texas. It was overshadowed by war in the Middle East. And I think so instead of being the celebration he, I think really has hoped for all these years, it became kind of a, an afterthought to a lot of things that are going on that are pretty important right now.
Peter Baker and Susan Glasser, thank you so much. You're the authors of The Divider, Trump in the White House, 2017 to 2021.